Oh my god. Where do I begin? Oh, this movie. This movie. I'm just having a hard time putting it to words. This movie is everything the Transformers movies should be. I mean, seriously, it is that good. I'm just getting back from the movie theater. I'm out in my car, and I just had to put this down now before it just gets out of my mind. Before I start. First of all, spoilers. Yeah. So if you haven't seen the movie and or you're not playing or you're playing, yeah, you know. First of all, this movie is so well directed. Well, what do you expect from Guillermo? But pretty much the plot line of this movie is kind of like Independence Day meets Rock'em Sock'em Robots. That's the best comparison I can make for this movie. I mean, seriously, this is pretty much. But I'm gonna just list a little bit of problems with it. No, don't take this the wrong. These are just little nitpicks, little problems that I find for it. Um, they're probably going, "Oh, you fuck you! You find some." Yeah, don't troll me, please. These are just little nitpicks. You probably won't. Probably won't bother you. In the beginning of the movie, they try and tell so much in so little time, like where these things come from, and really you could miss it unless you properly pay attention. I mean, it goes by so fast, the explanation for how these things came to be, the kaiju came to be in our world, and it was just it took me. I had to wait like halfway through the movie to get another notion of how these things came into our world. And so for like the first, well, makes sense for the beginning of the movie, but for the first 45 minutes, I was like, okay, yeah, this is cool and all that, but where the hell did these things come from? Um, but it was the explanation they came up with was actually somewhat plausible. I'm gonna say this now: turn off, mute, or if you're just if you're watching this, you probably are aware there's gonna be spoilers. These things come in through I almost said plot hole. No plot. Well, it's part of the plot, but they come in through this wormhole that links our universe to their universe or our world to their world, and what that does is allow them to come into our world, and it's kind of weird. They do it like one at a time with each of these kaiju, um, but they're really they're but these kaiju are more like scouts. I mean, these things aren't like monsters. They do think. They do have working minds. They can adapt and all that, and that's one of the plot lines to it. Um, and one of the things I liked about the kaiju throughout this entire film is that you could pretty much distinguish between each of them. One thing that the Transformers movies had going for them that was kind of a problem with me is some of the Decepticons were colored so alike or had such similar shapes that you had a hard time distinguishing them apart from each other, and that was kind of a problem because I'm like, okay, who the hell just got killed? I mean, yes, I grew up with Transformers, I know how they look, but each of the kaiju's had like interesting designs. Like one was in the shape of a crab, another one was shaped like a hammerhead shark, one looked like a pterodactyl. Um, yeah, they were pretty distinguishable, and you could really tell them apart. One looked like kind of apish, still maintaining its reptilian form. Another one that had was like a lizard-like, and they were all pretty well. You could just like once I saw one attacking each of the guys in the giant Jaegers as they call them, you could really tell them apart. You could tell which ones were attacking, and that was good. That's always been a problem with the Transformers movies when they're fighting the Decepticons. Is like yeah, I'm not gonna go back, but it was really good. And what I mean by everything that Transformers should be, one of the things I always found a problem with me, since I'm a big Transformers fan, is the battles are so short. I mean, the final battles you see with Megatron and Optimus and so forth or the Mega or Optimus and the Fallen are so short that it goes by so fast. Like 1 minute they're talking, and the next sword through the chest and all that. And I'm like, what the fuck? We built up these guys, we built up these battles, and they end so quickly. But throughout this entire film, non-stop, well, I shouldn't say non-stop action, but a good amount of action. You will not be bored going into this movie. I can say that much. You will not be bored at all. Um, and here's another little spoiler. Ron Perlman makes a cameo, and I'm like, when I saw him come to screen, I'm like, of course, this is a Guillermo film. Of course he would show up. And and he was badass in his own right. One of the things that didn't really make sense to me throughout the entire film, was the way that the Jaegers are operated is by, you have to have two pilots, and they both have to be able to, like, one controls one arm and the one controls the other. It's, for some reason, you can't have one pilot to control the whole Jaeger. For some reason, it's not really explained why. It just, they say it overloads the brain or something of one pilot. But one of the ways that they connect the pilots to each other and to the Jaegers is, you pretty much link their minds and their memories. And I'm thinking to myself, why? I mean, our brains, when we're controlling our muscles, our brains send out electrical signals down to to our nerves and whatnot to control them. Why can't we just do that? Why couldn't they have just done that? But I guess it's to further the plot, because one of the ways they do use this movie, that it does become a plot point, that the memories are shared between one human, this professor guy who's kind of eccentric and really into the kaiju. He shares memories with one of the kaiju, and that's how they learn their plans and all, and how they're coming through and all that. And I guess I could accept that, but it was still kind of nagging in the back of my head throughout the entire movie of why they need to link memories. And I guess that was just part of the plot. And the action in this movie was really well done. I mean, in the CGI. I mean, normally I'm not a big fan of CGI because it makes it look so fake. It makes it like draw away from the emotion and drama of the whole situation to me. But it was really well done. I really liked the CGI. Yeah, the kaiju and all that. They were pretty well done, and I can give them props at it, because it takes a lot um, for a CGI to really affect me, and that was really good. If there was one problem I had with the action scenes, I was thinking to myself, why don't these guys like use like handgun weapons for their Jaegers or swords or daggers more? I mean, yeah, you can wail on the thing, but that doesn't really do a heck of a lot of damage. I mean, why not go out, guns a-blazing, with a knife or a sword? Well, there's a sword, but... And that was nagging in the back of my head every time these things fought, is why... I guess because it was the whole monsters, you're beating up monsters type of thing, being really manly, beating the shit out of these things, and I guess I could understand that for an action movie, and whatever. But, other thing, I saw this movie in 3D, and I'm not a huge fan of 3D. The 3D was done well in this movie. Well, I should say the first half was done well. The second half, I could hardly really notice it, maybe because I got so immersed into the movie itself that I didn't really notice all the special effects from the 3D. But there's this, like, opening scene you see when the movie first shows up, when it first comes up, where you have these stars flying at you, and there's these fish, and it really looks pretty well, pretty good 3D, and I was impressed by that. But But the only thing that really kind of bugged me also was I didn't really know a heck of a lot about these characters. I mean, the character development was okay, but it left me wanting more. Like, there's this team from Australia of these two pilots who operate a Jaeger, and it took me about near the end to find out that these two were a father and son. And I'm like, um, what? Like, um, one of the problems I also had with movies, some of the dialogue is kind of obscured by background noises, and I have really hard time hearing um, stuff. Like when somebody's talking, there's like a bunch of noise going on. I can hear that they're talking, but I can't understand the words that they're saying. And this was a problem for me personally in this movie. I had a hard time hearing some of the dialogue or understanding some of the dialogue that was being said. But it wasn't boring, and that was pretty good. Uh, what was I talking about before? Yeah, but with the father and son thing, and they bring up later there's this heartfelt moment between the father and son as they're about to go out to battle, and I'm like, I didn't really get emotionally invested in it because I only found out like maybe 10 minutes ago that these two were father and son, and it really didn't bring about a whole lot of emotion on me. I mean, it was just a scene where if they had built it up that these two were father and son throughout the entire movie, I might have gotten some emotion out of it, but it was just there. There was a lot better on the main characters. Like there's this woman named Mako who's pretty well developed. Not a really heck of a lot said about her past, but there's enough in there to really get you somewhat emotionally invested. But I felt like there was some wasted potential there with that. Um, yeah. In fact, there's this scene between Mako and the father figure that she has when they're saying goodbye to each other. And Mako is, I'm not sure if I think she's Mandarin Chinese. I can't, it's just the name Mako Mori sounds more Japanese to me, but the dialogue sound Chinese or Korean or something. It didn't really sound Japanese. But there's this one little thing of dialogue as they're saying goodbye to each other where it, like the rest of the film, they have subtitles throughout the entire film for these little, like, other dialect yeah, you know. But they choose this certain phrase. I couldn't really repeat it. I barely heard it, and they chose not to subtitle it. And I think that really drew in some emotion to the film. I think it really put some emotion into that scene. Of course, if you're not into the film and looking at all the dramatic, you're probably focusing on more on the action, so you might miss it. Uh, but but really, this was an incredible film. I haven't seen a summer blockbuster like this in a long time. It doesn't have some of the hamminess of Independence Day, though, which, if you're into hamminess, I'm really into hamminess. I really like that about some movies, which is why I actually like Independence Day. I really love that speech at the end with Bill Pullman. I mean, there were some scenes in this movie that gave me goosebumps, but not really a heck of a lot as I expected it to. But if you're looking for my verdict, go out and see this movie. You will not be bored. You will love this movie. You would have to be the most cynical person on the face of the earth to not love this movie. I'm just saying that here and now. And this is Riley Percival Miller saying, watch it. See this movie. See ya.